Hello and welcome back to Brawler Bios. I'm your host Brian, also known as Malorian, and this here is the Warmachine podcast that's all about Brawlmachine. You know, that good old 25-point version of the game made up by the great people there of Line of Sight. And what we do here on this show is that each time we're going to be taking a caster and we're going to be really breaking it down. We're going to be reviewing what its rules are. We're going to be then looking at what its, potential lists might be. Then we're going to get into the real fun stuff though, which is going to be the grading, and we'll give it a nice fun letter grade on its answers, its questions, its personal output, how it is for new players, and then for experienced players. Now, with that all being said, we have a crazy caster to be reviewing this week here, and that is going to be, and it's even trying to say it's going to be tough. I'm going to start with the real name, and then we're going to start talking about the alternate names. It is Karchev and Deathjack, Malignant Fusion. This is Karchev 2, Deathjack 2. People have called it, like Deathchev, Carjack. I've also seen K2D2, which is fun. You know what? The one that I like more is actually calling it either Karchev 2 or Deathjack 2, depending on what faction it's in. Because, yeah, this is going to be a caster that can go into multiple factions. It is a Khador Krix Greylord caster. So I guess if they ever come up with a Greylord faction, it might be in there too. But yeah, this is a very powerful caster. But when I'm going to be talking about it on the Khador side, I'm going to be calling it Karchev 2. And when I'm talking about it on the Krix side, I'll be calling it Deathjack 2. I think that actually makes the most sense, especially when you're looking like Old Witch, where they didn't just give it like one number. It's Old Witch 2 in Khador and Old Witch 3 in Grimkin. So I don't know. I think there's some history to go this way. But either way, let's jump into this. Like we said, Karchev and Deathjack Malignant Fusion is a Khador Krix Greylord Warcaster. It has 6 focus, so pretty good start, but just a little spoiler, it's going to get higher than that. It is speed 5, it is strength 12, mat 7, rat 5, defense 12, armor 19, command 8, and then here's where it gets crazy, 34 boxes. And the reason why it has so many boxes is because it's basically a Warjack. You look at it, it's going to have a grid just like a Warjack would, although there's some S's in there too, which will come to the extra rules at the back. But yeah, this thing is a beast. And it's also going to be having, even though it is a beast itself, 27 Warjack points still. I don't know why. I kind of think in my mind that Warjack points should be kind of like balancing the power of the model. If you hit hard, if you have extra models doing extra work, those Warjack points go down. But yeah, apparently this thing isn't. So I'm assuming as we get on to the other rules, it's probably going to be extremely weak. Spoiler, it's not. Getting into it, it's also going to be a construct because, like we said, it's basically a jack. It's going to be having 2 weapons for its melee. The first main one is going to be Sunderer. It is a range 2 P plus S19 magical weapon, and otherwise, apart from that, no special rules. That's it. It's just a big, huge axe. I'm going to be destroying things. The other thing it has is also a Necroclaw. This is a range 1 P plus S18 magical open fist. So, okay, for a secondary weapon being that strong, that is amazing. And on top of that, this is an open fist, so you can do shenanigans like throws and stuff like that. So always be wondering about whether that's worth doing as well. Finally, it's going to be having a nether weapon, which is its gun. It's called Sinkhole, and this is going to be a range 10, AoE 4, POW 12 magical gun. Magic on everything. That's the way it goes. Now, those of you out there that might think like, oh, wait, the gun has extra rules. No, actually it doesn't. It did back in CID, but just know that if you only know this model from the CID, they did make some changes, notably the gun, going into this released version. So right now the gun is just a straight up AoE that's a magical gun, because why not? Now, going to the next part of the card where things are going to get really interesting is going to be the other special rules, because there were no special rules on the weapons, and so that might make you think that there's not a lot of special rules in the back. No. There are a lot of special rules in the back. The very first one here is going to be Hate Infused. So this one says the S boxes of the model's damage grid represents its Skulls of Hate system. While the model's Skulls of Hate system is not crippled, it gains +2 focus. So you know how we said that this thing was basically focus 6? No, it's a jack that has focus 8. You might as well just take in like Haley 2 and put inside of a jack. Why not? That's a good amount of focus to have on a combat thing. So yeah, as you can see, I'm going to be a little bit salty. I'm going to try and keep this thing together. The next thing that goes on here is going to be Meat for the Beast. So once during each of your turns, when a model in this model's battle group destroys an enemy model with a melee attack while in this model's control range, immediately after the attack is resolved, this model can cast a spell without spending focus. So unless, just in case focus 8 was not enough, you also get a free spell. I don't know why. Seems like it's way too much, but sure, why not? I'm sure all the spells on the card will be really crappy to make up for this. Spoiler, it won't be. Moving on then, it also has Monster in the Machine, and it says, Karchev and Deathjack is both a living model and a construct model, but is neither a warjack nor a warrior model. Karchev and Deathjack can make slam, trample, and throw power attacks without spending focus. So there's another spot. We're just saving focus. Go ahead, just do it. No focus needed. But cannot make a throw power attack while its open fist is crippled. Effects modifying the amount of damage to or the manner in which damage is applied to a warjack also applies to them. Karchev and Deathjack cannot spend focus points to remove damage. So that last part there, just to make sure that's clear, you can still use your focus to reduce the damage by 5. What it's meaning here, normally warcasters don't do this at all, but you can do it where you can spend 1 focus to heal 1 damage, so you can't do that with Karchev. So a little bit of a negative, but not really. So wow, this is actually something that we should be saying here is actually a negative because it is both living and a construct. That means that any rules out there that do extra damage or get extra bonuses against living or constructs will be applying here. So if you have, +2 range to charging living models. If you have it so that you are, the Crucible Guard Jack that gets an extra dice of damage against constructs. All these things are going to apply. So that is important. However, since it does not count as a warjack, the big thing here is that a lot of times that means it cannot be disrupted. So that is very important because typically that has to be just against a warjack. So some things like that will save it. So it's important to know which terms are going to be applying when you are going to be looking at, Karchev Deathjack 2. All right. Moving past this, let's look at that spells. Again, we're getting free spells. We're having 8 focus. We can only assume that these all are going to be garbage. And the very first one here is going to be Abattoir. This is a cost 2 range self spell that says models in the spellcaster's battle group currently in its control range can immediately make 1 basic melee attack, and that this can only be cast once per activation. Now, this spell is amazingly powerful, right? It is basically getting many attacks for 1 focus. However, it is situational, right? If you do not have any jacks that are currently engaged, well, that means this will do nothing. So it also comes to be a bit of an order of activation thing. The best thing you want to do is activate your jacks first, get them up there, get them in combat, and then cast this. However, if you do that, well, your jacks probably got up there and did work, and so there might be not any models left. typically the time that I find that you are using Abattoir is going to be where they came up and they engaged you. So they moved models into you, maybe they got an alpha, maybe they jammed, whatever it is, and you might be casting Abattoir to try and disengage yourself from that jam. Now, there's also the times too where maybe you charge in your heavy on their heavy, and so you charge that heavy with your primary attack, and then you do your secondary attack against some infantry that's nearby. You know, it's a weak attack, maybe it's only power 14, would not do much against a heavy. However, by killing that model, this is going to be triggering Meat for the Beast that lets you cast a free spell. One of those things could be Abattoir, which lets you buy another powerful attack against your actual charged target. So these things, again, it is not straight power, right? Like if this was a range attack that you're getting for free that you could always get, that would be extremely powerful, but that's not the case. So Abattoir, a really good powerful spell if you can get it into the right situations. The next one, though, is going to be Death Ward. This is a cost 2, range 6 upkeep spell, and what it says is target friendly faction model / unit gains +2 armor. And that unit part, really important here. But let's finish this first. If the affected Warjack is damaged, choose which column suffers the damage. Models are not affected while out of formation. So we're going to see in here that Karchev really likes having a lot of armor. Sometimes, he might just put this on himself. You start off there as being a, let's say, mild armor 19, but throw this on, and now you're guaranteed to go up to armor 21, and picking those columns where they're going is really important to make sure that the systems that you want to keep running are going to keep running. Of course, you can always be putting this on other jacks too. Say like a Devastator that starts at armor 23, which is now going to armor 25. Yeah, that's a pretty big deal. Now, as I tried to stress there, this does not need to be on a Warjack. Even though you might read that and you think that Warjacks are the thing that you're really pushing to the next level, especially when you're going to be able to pick what column things are going to, well, don't forget that this could also go on things like, Man of War Shock Troopers or things like that. So on a unit, +2 armor across an already powerful, shield wall unit is, again, a very, very strong ability. So do keep that in mind as well. All right, the next spell here is going to be Full Throttle. Full Throttle is a cost 3 self-range spell that says Warjacks in the spellcaster's battle group beginning their activations in its control range can run, charge, and make slam or trample power attacks without spending focus that activation. While in the spellcaster's control range, models in this battle group gain boosted melee attack rolls, and Full Throttle lasts 1 turn. So first of all, I want to clarify that Karchev is not a Warjack, meaning that Full Throttle will not work onto it. Now, presumably what we would want to do here is take a whole bunch of Warjacks in the battle group, and then for 3 focus, they're all charging for free and they're all boosting for free. Now, a cost 3 spell is not cheap, right? That's something that's a lot of focus to be throwing your focus at. However, you can quickly see where that value comes in. If you have your 3 battle group that are charging in, well, you're making up that focus right there. Now, that's only going to be bringing value to you if you needed to get all those attacks. Again, if you charged in and made your attacks and killed everything and had a focus to spare, this didn't give you anything. However, if that's not the case, right there, that's going to be getting you the value. Again, also free power attacks can sometimes be very, very worth it. The other thing here too, though, is also boosted attack rolls. So let's look at a very simple situation. We're going to say that for whatever reason, you only have 2 other jacks. Those jacks are going to charge in for free. Then they're going to get their initial attacks. So probably 2 weapons there. These are combat jacks. And then have 3 bot attacks each. Now, because those are all boosted to hit, that means that effectively each of those jacks got 6 focus free. They got the 1 to charge, 2 boosted initials, and 3 boosted bot attacks. So for 3 focus on 2 jacks, you're making 12 focus of efficiency going on. And of course, if you have 3 jacks, 4 jacks, whatever you're going to be cramming into here, that just gets more and more value. Now, again, that can be reduced because if you don't need to charge, or maybe you're attacking something with low defense, it might be not worth it. But hey, if it's not worth it, don't cast the spell. Again, this is something that can also be going through meat for the machine. So maybe as your first Warjack does whatever it needs to do, it kills something, you trigger it, you throw up full throttle. Now the other things are charging for free. It's fantastic. It can do a lot of work, especially when you are casting it for free. So given that this is a caster that probably wants to be taking a lot of other Warjacks, a fantastic spell to be having on here. However, we still have other fantastic spells as well. And the next one here is going to be Locked Horns. This is a cost 3 range self spell that says, while in the spellcaster's control range, friendly faction models gain Unyielding. Locked Horns last for 1 round. Now it also clarifies that Unyielding means that you gain +2 armor against melee damage attacks. Now, this now starts to stack quite a bit, right? If we were thinking about how, okay, you had that death ward that could be helping you out there, well, now factor in another +2 armor as long as it's a melee attack. So if you're being punched and you're Karchev and Deathjack 2, you're not armor 19. If you have both those things currently going on, well, you're actually armor 23. That is crazy. That is so high. If you're the Devastator, you're not armor 23. You could be armor 27. 27 all the time. This is not like a Striker 1 feat. All the time it could be that high. Now, I do feel that the Devastator super armor is a bit of a meme. Sure, it is fantastic, but I do feel that over time, people are going to be taking this out of the list and going for more things like the Mana Wars, where, again, if you have your Shield War Mana Wars that have the Death Ward and Locked Horns, this is a very resilient model that is not just like a single Devastator. It is a unit that can get up there, block things, do work. I like it a lot. So yeah, either way, that is a very, very powerful spell to be having on there, and can be doing a lot of work if you have any armor as well. And I mean, like, as we're saying, there's a lot of things going on the card right now that says, take armor, take a big battle group. That's really the way it's trying to push you right now. Now, there is one more spell that's going to be on here, and that's going to be Onslaught. Now, Onslaught is a cost 2 spell, range self, upkeep spell, and it says, the spellcaster and friendly faction models beginning their activation in its control range gain relentless charge for 1 turn. And it clarifies here that while advancing as part of a charge, a model with relentless charge gains Pathfinder. So basically, it's not a spell that you're going to be casting all the time, but whenever you do have to worry about Pathfinder, sure, go ahead and use this spell. If you're in Khador, you might be in the theme where you have, Pathfinder anyway. However, if you're somewhere else where you need it, sure, it's on the card. Why not, right? It's not the worst thing to have on there as a bad spell that's situational. All right, with all that done, let's now move on to the actual feat. The feat is called To the Slaughter, and what it says is that while in Karchev and Deathjack's control range, this model and models in its battle group are speed 8. Again, really pushing you to want to have a battle group. When an affected model ends its normal movement in melee with 1 or more enemy models, the affected model gains 1 focus point. To the Slaughter lasts for 1 turn. All right, so first thing to say here, going to speed 8, fantastic. Of course, it means a lot more on the Khador side than it means on the Krix side, but hey, extra speed is extra speed. The other thing to keep in mind as well here too is that extra focus. Assuming you are doing something with your Warjack and you're going to be engaging something, well, what that means is also just that free focus. And it's not just like, okay, allocate 2, so we'll go up to 3. No, you gain this focus. So again, let's go back to that idea of the full throttle thing where you're basically getting 12 focus of efficiency. No, now it'd be 14 because you're getting an extra focus, which means an extra attack, which means an extra time where you're going to be getting boosted to hit. This does work. It really makes sure that you're going to be getting that alpha when you need it. And then once you get there, you are going to be crushing them. Just think of everything that's going together here. You are going in, getting the alpha, really definitely hitting because you have full throttle, really definitely doing damage because your jacks that are going to be getting an extra, attack because, well, 2 extra attacks because you charge for free and got an extra focus once you got there. And then just in case you were worried that you didn't kill enough, well, then after that, you have super high armor, so good luck trying to hit back. This is a crazy caster. I cannot believe how much power they all put on here. And again, the insult to me anyway that's added on top is the fact that it still, after all of this, has 27 Warjack points. I really feel that this is pushed, but whatever. Let's now go through and look at some lists. Now, I think the first list that I want to be going to here is going to be in the Khador side. So we're kind of talking about Karchev 2 at this point. So the theme I went with was Jaws of the Wolf, and really the reason why I did that is I wanted to have that Pathfinder. I felt that that was going to be very important to have. Now, what I took in here is my battle group was going to be a Berserker, a nice cheap beater, a Juggernaut, and also the Devastator. So like I said, I feel like the Devastator is going to leave, but at least in the beginning, it is such a meme thing to run up there. They just can't destroy it, and then as they try, you come in and just clean them up. For my free option, I'm going to be taking Sorsha 0, so now I threat even further because I have Boundless Charge. And onto Sorsha, I had the Kodiak. Now, again, remember that all these things that are going on here mainly work even if they're not in the battle group. So the feat is going to be everything. Full throttle is only going to be the things in your battle group. So that is going to be a little bit reduced. But again, the extra focus for getting there from the feat again will also apply to all the models. So do know that if you are taking models with Karchev that are not in your battle group, full throttle is going to be the only thing you're losing. Even locked horns you still have. So you're okay taking juniors. And especially with this, you have a lot of spells that you want to be casting. So you probably normally want to be taking more juniors than normal. Otherwise, I decided to be taking a min unit of battle mechanics because there'll be things to repair. I need to sometimes have some other models to be scoring and stuff like that. And then finally, I had 3 points, but I'm only going to be using 2 of them for a Manhunter. A Manhunter, very great solo, cheap, run in there, score a flag, contest something. It can also do work as well. I kind of felt like I could put in the extra points, but it wasn't anywhere that actually really mattered. I wish that our War Dog was only 1 point, but what are you going to do? That's it. Now, as I said, there's 2 different ways to run this, so I also made this on the Crick side. And on the Crick side, I decided to take it in Black Industries. So again, the reason why I'm doing this is to help out your jacks, because heavy war jacks in this army are going to be getting Carapace, so +4 armor against shooting. Again, that won't apply to Deathjack 2. However, that is going to make it so that your opponent's going to be like, yeah, don't drop the shooting because there's going to be a lot of stuff you can't be doing work to. Now, one of the best things I love taking with this is actually the Desecrator. Now, why the Desecrator is great is because on its weapon, it has critical shred. So whenever you get a critical hit, you're going to get an extra attack. And with full throttle, that can happen again and again and again. There's roughly like a 50-50 chance of getting it, so that can translate into a lot of extra attacks, and I've seen it go crazy. Otherwise, I put in the Reaper so that I can get some drag. So even though I can usually threat very far, if I can go up there fast and harpoon something, that can be amazing. I put in the Slayer because of course I did. It's a great, beater to have in there. I also put in Iacos because, again, like I said, you probably want a junior in there for your free option. And then on Iacos, I took Charybdis. Again, it semi might feel bad because that speed 8, you're only getting 3 from it. But seriously, if the feat just said gives you +3 speed, you'd be like, oh, this is fantastic. This is great. It's only because you're comparing it to Khador that you're feeling bad. So this means your Charybdis threatens so far, it's wild. And then past that, I decide again to take a War with Siren so that I can get a little bit of Empower if I ever need it, plus a great one to go on scores or contest. And then for my repairs, I also took a Necrotech. So those are all the lists. I feel that there's lots of different ways you can build this. Again, anything that's based off of armor is going to love Locked Horns. Anything that's a Warjack is going to love it because everything on the card is all about making Warjacks crazy. But yeah, you should have a lot of fun playing this model. And with that, let's now get to the grades. The first grade that we cover is what does it have for answers. So if you go up and you're up against some big armor skew, def skew, whatever it is, what does Karchev have on the card that helps you answer these questions from the other side? And there's a lot of really good ones here, right? If we have to deal with, oh boy, they are going to be having high defense, well, you're going to be having full throttle, so everything can be hitting there. I guess going past that there, what else do you really have? Well, I guess if they have some way of controlling and putting down terrain or rough terrain type stuff, you do have Onslaught for that. And the one that seems kind of hard to kind of really say, though, is what is the answer for high armor? Now, I feel that there is an answer on here because naturally you're going to be taking a list that's lots of jacks because there's lots of synergy, but that's not really a fair answer. You want something like a damage buff. And so to me, I think the damage buff that you have here on the card is 1 through full throttle, where if you're charging for free, you basically get an extra attack. And then as well, you have the Abattoir, which can be another additional attack. And then on top of that, you also have the feat that'll give you an extra focus for another attack. So that's where I feel it is. Again, it's not a straight up damage buff they'd be wanting for a straight answer, but it's there in bits and pieces. And I think the strongest one there is going to be that answer for having high defense. There's no answer here for if there's like a incorporeal skew or anything like that, but at least there is a set answer for high defense, shenanigans with placing terrain, and then of course there's pieces in here that all come together for an answer for high armor. And overall, I think that's plenty. I think that's actually lots of answer that's on here. I don't think it's a straight A, but I do feel it's a B and more likely a B+. It's pretty strong answers that you do have here in the card. So yeah, let's go the B+ for that. I could be argued for an A-, but it's not really all quite there. I'm going to give it that B+. All right, the next one we're going to be asking here, though, is the questions. What is Karchev 2, Deathjack 2 bring to the table that is saying, like, look, if you don't answer this, you're in a lot of trouble. And I feel that especially at 25 points, this is where you really excel. Because what you really have here for questions is, first of all, can you handle this crushing alpha? I'm going to go and speed up my jacks, likely get the alpha, and then once I get there, I'm going to hit, and I'm going to hit hard. And you need to have something to try and deal with that. You know, maybe it's some frontline infantry that can take the first round of it, whatever it is. But if you don't have something that stops that, this list is going to get into you, kill off your battle group, and then you're not going to be able to hit back, which leads into the second part of the question, which is going to be the high armor, right? Between having the Death Ward and the Locked Horns, the armor skew here can get so crazy that if that alpha is able to take out that hard hitter on the other side, they might have no chance of trying to compete. Again, at 75 points, you can have several different things. If you lose a couple heavies, you're still okay. But here, if they come in and they take out your hardest hitter, well, what's going to happen after that? They don't have anything after. If that hardest hitter, let's say they protected it and it had to go in and now like it took out one heavy, but then the other heavies easily take out that heavy. What do they do past that point, right? You need something to be dealing with these Locked Horns and a Death Ward and all this. And if you don't have that, who cares about the alpha? You just can't grind this out to a win. It is a really big deal. So I think those are the two really big questions that this caster is asking, and they are tough questions. And so overall, I think that this here is definitely an A. I don't think it's like pushing it to an A+, but this is definitely a grade of an A when it comes to asking questions where, I mean, if your opponent comes in and they don't have any way to be dealing with this armor, they just lose and they're just going to get ground down. All right, next one here is also going to be a very strong grade, and this is going to be for personal output. If you need, good old Karchev 2, Deathjack 2 to close out the game by killing that last heavy, can Karchev do it? Of course Karchev can do it. POW 19 with a backup POW 18, you're going to be having 8 focus, assuming you haven't lost your S systems. Yeah, of course you can do this. This is an A+. This is a monster that hits harder than any other jack you have there on the table. I'd actually be interested to go and do a comparison for like, okay, if you have a Colossal with 3 focus, or you have the potential here with Karchev that can have the 8 focus, plus, if you hit and kill something, you can get Arbitoire. Maybe this is the feat as well. Like, you can be getting a lot of attacks with Karchev. It is crazy. So this is easily an A+. It does a lot of work on its own. And again, why I'm surprised it still has 27 Warjack points. All right, the next one here is going to be, what would be the grade for a new player? If I have a new player coming into my group and they're like, hey, I want to try out this Brawlmachine thing. I bought this Karchev 2, Deathjack 2. Is this a good idea? Yes, I think they're going to love it. It is a very resilient caster that can do a lot of cool things. And even though there's some rules that you have to kind of like get around what's the right way to do it, I think they're going to learn it very well. Now, they might get themselves in trouble where they go up there, they kill something with Karchev, and then get Karchev killed in return because they don't realize that, you need to be camping, you need to be safe. You can't just completely throw yourself up there. Although, even those cases, they might actually be okay. If you feat and get up there and you have Death Ward and Locked Horns up, they might not have enough to kill Karchev, even on a 0 camp. But either way, this should be something that they're going to just heavily enjoy. They can take whatever jacks they want with it. A lot of other infantry gets buffed up from this as well. I think it's fantastic. I'm going to give this one an easy A as well. Maybe that A- where they might get too cocky and get it killed. But honestly, what new player is not going to enjoy taking this beast and just being like, wow, this is so powerful, and just knowing that there's ways to go up from there? Just absolutely, this will be an A. They're going to love it. Now, let's look at this from experienced players. If a vet came to me and said, Malorian, I'm coming to your tournament and I want to win this Brawlmachine event with Karchev 2, Deathjack 2, do I think that they'll do well? Of course I do. This is a very powerful caster that if you know how to use it well and keep Karchev safe, you are probably going to ground that thing down to a win. I mean, unless you run up against something that is perfectly designed to try and kill off Karchev, you are probably going to be just living your best life and just crushing a lot of things out there. So this is another A. I would almost lean towards an A+. I think this is very, very dominant in 25 points, but maybe I'll just leave it as a plain A just to see. So overall, as you can see here, high grades all across the board. And I think as a last little bonus question, one of the things we should ask is, should this actually be in the epic list for Brawlmachine? And without a doubt, I have this as a solid yes. Again, Line of Sight can make whatever decisions they want, but I feel that there is just so much here on the card, and that the only thing that didn't end up as an A was the answers, and even then, that's like a B+. It was a very, very strong grading for that. This is just maybe too strong that I don't feel like this is a fair thing in a lot of games, but hey, maybe I'll be proved wrong. So as always, if you have anything you want to say, maybe you agree, maybe you disagree, please let me know, send me those comments, and I do these every 2 weeks, so if you think that, hey, I would really want to be covering this caster, let me know. I'll add it onto my list, and I'll cover that one as soon as I can. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed listening to this one. It was a longer one because maybe there's a little bit of ranting, plus we're covering 2 faction versions at the same time. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you again next time. Bye.